Hey guys, Timmy D with Drone Mapping Tools, and in today's video we're going to walk through cleaning up and processing the LiDAR data from a Yellowscan LiDAR unit. So a buddy of mine, Eric Turner, out in Reno, Nevada, he is with Global Aerial Productions, and so Eric was kind enough to send me a data set from his Yellowscan LiDAR unit, and I'm going to walk you through how to take this data set and do, we really don't need a strip alignment, that's good, but we're going to go in and just get rid of all the overlapping points and do a good classification on that point cloud. And so this is done at the Rancho San Rafael Regional Park out in Reno. So you can just kind of see this is the park area that was flown. That's about 50 acres. So that's going to be the data set. So I'll go ahead and close this, and we can discard. And look, if you guys need anything relating to LiDAR, if you need LiDAR, if you need the enterprise drones, we carry all of that. So we are a turnkey solution provider for LiDAR and industrial and enterprise drones. We carry Whisper, DJI, and on the LiDAR sensors, we're very proud to carry the Inertial Labs. We have the Topo drone, and we also have the entry-level DJI L2. So any of you guys needing LiDAR equipment or software for processing, we've got it. So let me go ahead and close this. Alright, so when we open up Lidar360, this is what you're going to see. Now I'm running the new version 7. So, I mean, you could have an older version, and man, it would sure be worth upgrading to version 7. They got some nice features. So what we're going to do is we are going to import this last file. So again, every LiDAR manufacturer out there, they're going to have proprietary software that will take the initial point cloud that literally was collected on the LiDAR unit. It's going to take the GNSS data and the IMU data, and it's going to post-process that and then output a single LAS file that can then be imported into whatever software. Now, there will always be a single, in most cases, it'll be a single file. Now, they will give you the option to output one file per trajectory, but in most cases, people will want a single LAS file. But there will always be a trajectory file for every flight that you did. And in this case, Eric did 2 flights, and so there are 2 trajectory files. So let me go ahead and we're going to drag this one in. And when you drag your file in, you always want to go ahead and set up the transformation and basically specify what your projection is. So I'm going to do select, I'm going to do Nevada, and here it is in the top of my recent list. Now, Yellowscan, the Cloudstation, for whatever reason, it outputs the horizontal in US feet, and then the vertical is in meters. So I'm not sure, and I don't know if it's just the way his settings are, or if that's for everyone, but it doesn't matter because Lidar360 can accommodate that. And then the vertical, again, were meters, so it's NAVD88 for the datum on the height. If it had been feet, then we would have to choose this feet US option. And then, of course, all of his data is using Geoid 18. So I'm going to go ahead and click on OK, and I'm going to hit apply. Now, had there have been multiple LAS files, I would have actually wanted to choose apply all and not just apply. That way it would just apply those same settings to every single LAS file that I was importing. Otherwise, you would have to go through and redo it on every single file. So whether it is the LAS file you're importing or it's the trajectory files, I mean, I would say in 99.99% of all cases, they will always have the same projection information being used. So you would just simply choose apply all. So this is a massively dense file, and that's one of the great things about Lidar360. Man, we are going to go in, we're going to slice it up and match it to the trajectories, and then we will get rid of all the overlapping points, classify the ground, and it will be a much smaller, much cleaner file that is very usable and very fast to work with. Alright, so after you bring in your initial point cloud, the next thing you're going to do is go up to pre-processing. You're going to click on Boresight. Then we're going to say Open Trajectory Files. Now it'll say, hey, you need to select a workspace. Well, what I will do, LiDAR data. Okay, so I'm gonna make, well, there's a folder here that's already there, so I'm gonna go ahead and select. If there wasn't a LiDAR, no, I'm sorry. I want to create a Lidar360 folder, and that way any special files related to Lidar360 will be in a Lidar360 subfolder. Now it says, hey, where are your trajectories? Well, here are the two trajectories right here, Flight 1 and Flight 2. And you will always have a trajectory for every flight that you perform. All right, so I'm going to hit Open. Now we're going to go down and change skip lines from 0 or from 1 to 0. Now once you get used to Lidar360 and you know the software, you won't necessarily have to unhide this line. But I do know, like, we are not using longitude and latitude. We're actually using grid X and grid Y because we're on state plane coordinates. I'm going to leave that to height. So roll, pitch, heading, that's all good. Now we want to ignore the rest of these columns. We do not need this data. Ignore. And there could be a more efficient way to just turn them all to ignore, but that's the way I know. Now that I've done that, I'm going to go ahead and hide that first row. It's also important, let's go to our state, select coordinate. And then you will see, and of course I could have just expanded recent, but type in Nevada, and it's going to be the same one that we're using for the point cloud. Again, I go to vertical. This is in meters, geoid 18 for that, and I'm going to hit Apply All. Now, this little message is popping up, and it says, hey, do you want your coordinate transformation? If we use yes, it's going to try to use longitude and latitude. We do not want that. We are on state plane, so I'm going to hit no, because if I hit yes, it would have brought them in as latitude and longitude, and that would have been, well, a mess. It wouldn't have been right. So here's what we're going to do. We need to go in and so the red was the first flight. Let's go. We are going to go. This is going to be like the first part of the flight. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off the green. So I'm going to move this up a little. I'm going to turn off the green so that I'm only working with the red. Okay. And when you are going, we want to split this trajectory up so that they're all individual files. The easiest way to do that is to draw a polygon. Now you can select on the trajectory. In other words, if I come and click on this trajectory and I drag all the way down to the bottom and click, then I could click on this one, come all the way up, click again. You can manually click on these trajectories and select them by using the select on trajectory option. But the fastest way is just to draw a polygon. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to stay short of this turnaround area. So I'm going to click once, I'm going to come over, I'm going to click again. Now I'm going to click my middle mouse button to move this up, and then I can zoom in. And then we're going to click right here, and we're just going to come up to right here. And look, we don't have to worry about all these other lines in here. It's going to get rid of those, and if it doesn't, we will. Okay, so I'm going to go over and I'm going to double click. Let's see. Yeah, we're good. we're just kind of going across. And now look, if I wanted to stay closer to the end, I can come, I'm going to click once again, and I'm going to just kind of stay across this bottom line. That way I wasn't across the top. And when I get right here, I'm going to double click. Okay, now we have a polygon that has gone around all of these lines, and I'm going to say select by polygon. Okay, so that part's been done. Now let's turn on. Now I'm going to turn this one on, and we basically have this one line right here, and I might even grab this section here. Now in this case, instead of trying to draw a polygon, it will actually be easier for me to just kind of zoom in, and then I am going to say select on trajectory. I want to click right here, and notice I'm going to come down. Now again, I'm going to hold my middle mouse button, and I'm able to drag it up, and I come right down, and this one line, boom, right here, I'm going to click. All right, there's one. Now, let's say I did want to use this line. This is kind of the return flight home, but the fact is we can still get usable LiDAR data out of this line. So I'm going to click right here. We're going to go up, up. I'm just kind of following. I'm going to left mouse click, and let's come down to say, let's just go to right here. Click again. All right. Now, when I turn all of these back on, they're all selected, and it's by the polygon where we drew the square here, drew the polygon here, but on this one it's just where we selected on the line at the top and bottom. Same thing here, top and bottom. Now what we're going to do is we go and click on the option that says split trajectory, and it's going to get rid of all those extra turnaround points at the end. Now, because these points were inside, they were left over, but that's okay, because what we're going to do is we're going to delete those. So this salmon colored right here, yep. So before you ever just delete, you always turn it off, back on, and I'm going to right mouse click, choose delete. We got this white one, okay, and yeah, I don't have to turn it back on. I'm going to say delete. I got this blue one. Right mouse click, delete. This one, probably that. Yep, that one. Right mouse click, delete. This little light blue one here, delete. I should have this yellow one here, delete, and this pink one, delete. Okay. So I got rid of all the trajectories that I did not want. Okay, so now we just have all of the parallel flight lines plus this one that was more or less looked like a manual flight home. And that, I mean, and the fact is, if this was not in part of the flight data, it might be better to not even use it, because matter of fact, no, elevation wise it stayed up, because I mean it could have been that it flew back and then was actually descending the whole way as it was coming back to the home point. So for this sake, I mean, we're going to go ahead and leave it in there, but there could be situations where it would be better to just simply delete that. Alright, the next thing we want to do is we want to cut the point cloud based on the trajectories. And so what it's going to do is we're going to click on it, and it is going to cut this point cloud up. All the points that go with green will be labeled green. All the points that go with yellow, pink, and all the way across. And so, okay, it's moving. Again, there are a lot of points in this point cloud. And so this could take just a few minutes. I'll be quiet, and then we'll speed this up and jump back in as soon as it's done. Alright, so it is done, and every time when Lidar360 finishes a process, it's going to say, do you want to add data to the current project? You always say yes, okay? Now, we did yes, but what we want to do is we're going to go and turn off this original bottom file. Okay, now that actually got rid of some data here on the ends. So didn't get rid of a ton of it, we got rid of some. And now we're just left with the points that belong to these flight lines. But now it's cut them up, but now what we're going to do is we're going to say match the point cloud and trajectory. And this is where it'll actually colorize the point cloud based on the flight line. So all the points that are green, so matter of fact, if I go in here and turn off let's see, am I going in the wrong direction? No, not that. Hello. Okay, so I'm going to turn off. So this is, you can see that the points from this flight trajectory, they not only, a lot of times 50%, you can go over and just almost touch the line, but it's actually exceeding the trajectory of the next line over. Okay, so let's turn these back on. And then I always like to turn on iDome lighting, EDL. It just makes seeing the point cloud a little bit easier. But now that we have done this, now what we can do is, because the point cloud has been more or less sliced up and matched with the trajectory it goes with, and it's done by color, we can actually go in and we can look at this point cloud and let's see how well the alignment was done by the software that processed it. So we're right out here on this outside edge. I'm going to come through. Now I'm going to change my buffer to say 0.2 meters. You can do 0.1. This cloud is very, very thick, so actually I can just do 0.1. That's adequate. Because now we're only looking at a 10 centimeter slice, because if you go too deep, you could have, you get a false information, because your data is, say, 20 centimeters thick or deep. But this is pretty good. I mean, we're not seeing the strip alignment that was done by the Cloudstation software is really good. So this is mixed in really well. And look, I mean, when I process data from the Inertial Labs PC Master Pro, same thing. Man, it is very, very good. Okay, so this is good. We just have a ton of we have a lot of points that are just overlapping that we don't need. So that's what we're going to get rid of. So enough of that. Let's close this. So the alignment is good. That's what I wanted to see. That part, that gets an A+. Everything's lined up well. Now we are going to say, we're going to go into, let's say the alignment was off. You can go into the calibration functionality, and then we could use Lidar360 to auto calibrate. It does a phenomenal job. If you have point clouds that are not aligned, maybe the software that did the initial processing, there was no strip alignment done in it, well, you can use calibration to do your strip alignment, but we don't need that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is jump right into cut overlap. And the first thing we want to do is we want to classify all of our overlapping points. So when you click on this shortcut here, this is going to pop up, and by default it's just going to go to classify. So I'm going to say OK, and it will go through, and Lidar360 will determine all of the points that it considers overlapping points. In other words, it's from one flight line to the next, they're virtually identical points, and you don't need all of those. So it'll take just a minute. Again, I'll be quiet, I'll let it finish, and then we'll jump right back in here as soon as it finishes. Alright, so that's been done. The next thing is, let's go down here and look at this. Instead of by RGB, I'm going to look at it by classification. Now, when we view Lidar360 by classification, all the yellow is duplicate points, or overlapping points. So let's turn Now, when I turn, so there's my never classified, and then, I mean, that's enough to make a, do your point cloud modeling right there, and that is all the duplicate overlapping points. So the next thing we're going to do is we go back up here and we say cut overlap, and instead of classify, we are going to say delete. Now look, there are parameters. If you had issues or there's things you want to change regarding the density and how you choose your overlapping points, you can change that here. But the fact is the default values work extremely well, and they get rid of many points that are not needed and still maintain the integrity of the point cloud. So I'm going to go ahead and do OK. And then this time, it'll go through and instead of, well, it'll just take the points that have been flagged as overlapping and it's going to mark them for deletion. So they will no longer be part of the point cloud. And when we get done, we're going to take a look at the original file size and we'll take a look at this file size. And I can guarantee you there's going to be a substantial difference in that. And man, once you get rid of all the stuff you don't need, you can just work with these files so much faster. You know, maybe you could have a data set where you've got some issues, or maybe the classification is not perfect and you need to go in there and do some manual classification, but you will be able to work with this data so much faster once all these overlapping points are removed. Alright, again, it's done. It's going to say, hey, do you want to add this new data where the ground points have been, the overlapping points have been removed? You want to add it to your project? Yes, you do. So again, once we do that, but now what I want to do is I got to go back. I wish Green Valley would fix this so that when you add points or files in, they would automatically uncheck these. That would be so nice. We no longer need our trajectories. We're not doing a trajectory adjustment or any strip alignment, so we're done there. We can come back and look at this by there's our RGB. Look, I mean, we still have very good, looking at it in the RGB view, man, you can still see everything perfectly. All right, let's go to tools. Let's look at our point density. 56 points per square feet. Oh my gosh, that is still, that's still insane. Of course, now we haven't classified the ground points yet, but that's just unclassified points, 56 per square feet. All right, I'm gonna do okay. All right, so the next thing I like to do is I'm gonna go to click on terrain, and then I'm gonna remove outliers. And basically this is just rogue points that are just kind of out there. Any birds, just for sure birds. I mean, that's going to get rid of those. So I'm going to go ahead and do OK. And it'll run this and it'll get rid of any outliers that are just kind of rogue individual points. And then after that, we're going to do our ground point classification. And after we finish the ground point classification, then we'll run a noise filter, clean that up, and then we'll be ready to export this out and we'll be done. So, and then that, I'll probably go ahead and wrap up this video, and then I'll do a separate video going into Global Mapper Pro. For anybody who wants to see that, I'll just provide a link and you can jump in there and watch that video. Alright, so this is done as always. And now look, well, let's go ahead and add it to the current project first. Man, instead of just keep multiplying these things out, 10 files at a time, what I really need to do is I'm going to go up and I'm going to go to Tools. I'm going to come over to Other Point Cloud Tools, and I'm going to say Merge. And then we're going to do... Now, when you merge, you lose... If you don't come in here and change, so like let's say I did merge, what I really want to do sometimes is I will come in and do, like, I'll say overlap, remove or let's just say outliers. Okay, that way that I know that I removed the overlap and I removed the outliers on this particular file. Because, you know, you start working with big data sets and maybe doing a lot of stuff, you forget, oh, did I do that or did I not? Of course, you can, let's do okay. You can always come down here and look in the bottom right-hand corner and look at your log, and you'll see that you removed outliers. But anyway, so merging that into one file is helpful. And then what I'm going to do is, when we add it back in here, I'm going to go ahead and remove all of these others. This stuff is kind of cached, and so if you have a very large data set and you have these, I have seen where this can affect your performance. So once this is added in, I'm going to go ahead and select all of these, and these are LiData files. One of the things I'll mention is that Lidar360 is a non-destructive editor. It always makes a copy of the original LAS file, and then it makes a file that ends in LiData. And so all the editing that you're doing, all the changes, everything you make is non-destructive to the original file, because you are now working with their proprietary LiData format. Now, if you export out, once you've finished doing all of your editing and you do an export and you overwrite your original file, then, well, that's on you, and you have now erased, you know, unless you have a backup of that original, well, you've done overwritten it and all your original data is gone. With the exception that you could still go back and open up these original LiData files, because all of these files are still here. So if I delete them out of this panel, the LiData files are still in the folder where we did all this work. So you could in fact go back and open up, say, these 3 LiData files and just start back over again. So all of your originals would in fact still be saved under this particular file right here. Alright, we're going to add to project right there. Now what I'm going to do is just go in, I want to remove all of these. So I'm going to select them all. Right, select the first one, shift, and then left click that one, and I'm just going to remove and say remove. All it did is remove them from this panel. It did not delete the files. And I am recording this, so that can affect my performance as well. So, alright, now we're ready. Let's go back into terrain, and let's go ahead and do classify ground points. And, you know, this is, man, a lot of times it doesn't matter what the terrain is. I will actually usually use pretty much these values that you see here. And there is, I mean, the building size, we can measure the building, but I'm just going to run with 80 meters and everything should be good. So let's do okay. And then we'll take a look and see how things look. I mean, we've got quite a few trees, a lot of heavy vegetation kind of right in here. Parking lot, here's a building down this bottom section right here. Another, some type of building right there. Alright. So now we can come back and we're going to look at our point cloud based on classification. Let's turn off. I mean, here's all of our ground points, right? As a matter of fact, let's man, that looks, I want to tell you what, Lidar360, it is absolutely stellar in its ground point classification. So, and then you may want to check let's go back to tools, density, kind of over here and just in the trees. 2.68 per square feet, 2.7. That's still plenty. Still absolutely plenty. We're gonna have a lot more out here. 2.4, well, 2.48. .92. All right, that's pretty good. So now I'm going to click on OK. Now the last thing is, if you thought, I mean, if you had any issues, I mainly just want to show you how to do the strip alignment for the not strip alignment, but actually cut it up by trajectory so that you could get rid of the overlapping points. But now you can also run a noise filter. That's one good thing to do. So I'm going to come over to other point tools and you can do noise filter. Now look, this is, I mean, you have to just kind of do some testing with this, because if I run, you could, in fact, there's a lot of times where if I run this at the default values, then it will get rid of too much. And so this is doing a half a meter out and doing a multiple standard deviation of 1. If 1 is too much, then we can go ahead and I'll bump it up to 2. All right, so I'm going to do OK. Running this noise filter, it will add an additional file back in, just like some of the other filters. So when you add that in, if you go back and check your point density and just look, kind of spot check different areas, if you feel like there was too much that was cleaned up in the way of getting rid of noise, then you can undo it and then go back and do it with a standard deviation of 2. So, I mean, this right here is just still going to go, even though the ground points have been classified, you're still going to go in and run against those ground points and just see, you know, is there anything that's classified? Maybe you've got some tall grass and part of the grass was in fact classified as ground, and any of these kind of oddball ground points that were, say, up in the grass, even if it's only 2 or 3 inches, then you can get rid of those. All right, you want to add data? Always yes. And then look, we're gonna, Now sometimes you'll get some goofy stuff like this where the way that it draws it on the screen. But I mean, even so, let's just check our point density, right? So I'm going to go to density. So now we're getting down a little bit thinner here. Per square feet. That's too thin, in my opinion. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to uncheck. I'm going to go back to here, and then we're going to do it one more time. So we'll go back to tools, other. I'm going to do noise filter. And let's do 2. I'm going to do OK. Let's run it one more time. And it may be that we don't even need to do the noise filter at all. That it's kind of fine without it. All right, so for all practical purposes, this file is ready to roll. We went in, we cut it up according to the trajectories. We then matched all the points to the trajectories, and we got rid of all the overlapping points. Then we went in and got rid of any outliers, and then we classified the ground points. Now, we could export this out and just take it straight into whatever other program you may want to work with for doing your final deliverables. You can generate contours within Lidar360. I personally prefer to use Global Mapper Pro, and then there are a lot of other good programs for doing that. A lot of you guys already have your Trimble Business Center. Some people have the Carlson survey software. There are a plethora of other programs where you can do that. So, but one other thing you might want to do is before we export this out, we want to check our verticals and make sure that they are accurate. Now, you will recall this was exported, this point cloud was in US survey feet for the horizontal, but it was meters for the vertical. Now, this is here's the CSV file that was collected from the site for the ground control points. And then there was a base set up over a benchmark there. But now this is all in meters. The easting and northing and elevation is in meters. We're going to leave the meters, but I do need to convert this to US survey feet so that we can run a check in inside Lidar360. And of course, we can just convert this to US survey feet. And then I did that, and here, so here's the text file that we're going to bring in. Okay, so you can now see that this is in, it says it's not, it's feet. This is in feet, and then here's still the meters for the elevation. Okay, so to do your control point check in Lidar360, we're going to come underneath, you're going to expand strip alignment, you're going to go to control point report, and then I do not let's see, right up here from point class, I don't want to check all points. I only want to check this against the classified ground points, because that's what we're really looking at. So I'm going to only leave number 2 ground checked. My known points, I'm going to click here, and then this is the file that I just opened up and showed you guys, right? So we're gonna do that. Now this is a tab delimited, so I'm going to come down and click on tab at the bottom, and then easting, northing, elevation, that's correct. So now same type setup when we brought in our trajectory, so we're going to skip the first line. Once we have confirmed that, I'm going to hit apply. Now here's all of our known points. Matter of fact, let's kind of scrunch this down a little bit and see where they show up right here. And this one's on the very outside, almost really too far to the outside edge, but it's there. And then now I'm going to go ahead and click on calculate, and let's expand this back up. And look, here are the residuals. So we're 300ths. So that's now the vertical is we're in meters. Okay, so this would be 3 centimeters, 3 centimeters, 4 centimeters, 6. So what you can do is you can take an average of these errors. Okay, I mean, and that's what I will do. I would take the average of these errors, and then we will adjust the point cloud by that amount. It is not about, you do not take and bend the point cloud to your different control points. That is a no-no. I mean, even though you can do it in the software, you only adjust the entire point cloud to your average vertical error, and now it's going to be as good as it can be, and it's going to be excellent. I mean, you're going to have a couple of these points that'll be now within, could be 1 centimeter, some of them could be 2, but the bottom line is you adjust the entire point cloud by the average, or you can do consider it the average, the median, and then that will have this thing super tight. Now, one other aspect of adjustment is looking at the point cloud in the intensity view. Okay, now we are only, let's go back to classification. I want to turn on all points so that when I then go back to intensity, I'm looking. Now, in the intensity view, the best thing you could ever do moving forward is when you fly LiDAR, you need to put out a 5x5, say a 5 foot by 5 foot or 4 foot by 4 foot tarp, piece of plywood that's black and white, that is very, very large, and that you that becomes one of your GCP targets. Because when you zoom in, and let's find a sidewalk. Bear with me. So in here, like if we had the parking lot, now we can adjust our intensity, right? Now looking over here, min 2001. I don't know why there's this kind of crazy range here. That's a little odd, but. Right. Okay, we're starting to hide. We can adjust our ranges so that we hide some of the darker, and all we see are the brighter images. But when you have a parking lot, you know, that'll be a good one where you could see just black and white stripe, or the white stripes on a black parking lot. And it makes it very easy to hone in and see the center point of that. Well, if you will put down a target, a black and white target that's very large, you will be able to zoom in and say, for instance, let's zoom in right here. This corner, you see this corner right here? If this was a mark on the ground and you shot that, we could import our control points in and literally see, well, are we shifted off by maybe 2 or 3 inches? If you wanted to get your point cloud adjusted horizontally down to, say, within 1 inch, then you literally could have this target with a very, very well-defined corner point that you shoot. And let's say that the control point shows up right here, but the corner is actually right here. And you always want to do this, and should do this, in the intensity view. And then you would take this corner point, and we would move it the exact amount needed to bring it to the control point, and now your horizontal is very, very accurate. Then you can run the adjustment, the control point report, and see, well, how much do we need to adjust the point cloud vertically to make it as accurate as it can be. And once you do that, you've got a point cloud that's, I mean, really as good as it can be. And so that's really it. I will cover doing all of that in the complete LiDAR video. And again, that has just been a work in progress. I've had issues. I fractured my shoulder. There's just been a number of things that kind of caused some delays there, but I'm getting very close to finishing that up, and I will cover doing all of those details in that video. Hey, one important detail I left out: if you want to export your file, you just simply come over on the left-hand side. In the particular file you want to export, just right mouse click, choose export, and there you go. Here's your available export formats. I mean, you can do E57 or just stay with the normal LAS and export it out to wherever you want to put it, and you're ready to use it in the next program. But this showed you how to come in, clean up your point cloud, and get it ready to export out and do whatever final preparations you want to do with it, as far as generating contours and what have you in other programs. If this has been very helpful, give it a thumbs up. Go ahead and subscribe if you want to see a lot more content coming out. We've been constantly adding quality products to our product line. We'll be coming out with videos on a regular basis to highlight those and show you how to use them and how they can benefit you in your LiDAR workflow and even photogrammetry workflow. So again, thank you for just staying with us to the end. Thank you for being a part of the Drone Mapping Tools community. Have a good one. I'll see you in the next video.